Hey, today we're going to take this pile of recyclables and turn it into a Runway-esque Halloween costume idea. In this video, we're diving into the magical world of sustainability and creative imagination. I do want to welcome you to my channel. I'm Stephanie Escotte, and in this creative DIY episode, I'm on a mission to turn recyclables into a one-of-a-kind Halloween costume that will leave you wondering, is that really recycled trash? Oh, and just a little FYI, if you're buying staples and they say 26/6, it's a standard staple. I don't know why. I don't know why it has to be very complicated, but I was petrified in this very moment because I was very unsure because it doesn't say 26/6 on the other packaging, but that's okay. All right. Before I even get into what this video is really about, we're going to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that I have ADHD and I was supposed to cut this out in one straight line, and at some point I cut across and realized I screwed up. So then I went with it, and you wouldn't even know it until probably the very moment when I look up and stare at the wall that I didn't have a plan. But I kept rocking and rolling with it, and I decided I needed a designer handbag to go with my Runway-esque Halloween costume, because if we are trick-or-treating, we need all the treats and we need a place to put the treats. And I'm realizing now that I have a design flaw. Well, I will have to take that into consideration in the future. Pockets, pockets, pockets. But I just enjoyed the process of this, thinking on the fly, and I truly believe it turned out exactly how I quickly envisioned it within 30 seconds. Ta-da! That's right. Strut like you mean it, girl. You made that. And back to our regularly scheduled programming. Imagine a world where we don't just toss things aside after one use. Instead, we give them new life, new purpose. That's what today is all about. Let's start by unraveling the concept of sustainability. It's a word we hear a lot these days, and for good reason. Our planet desperately needs it. Think about the impact of fast fashion. Including the sheer amount of Halloween costumes turned out so quickly, often ending up in landfills within a year. Now consider the alternative: recycling or upcycling. It's a simple idea with a massive impact. Recycling isn't just about bins and sorting, it's a commitment to making our world cleaner and greener. And by upcycling, you can infuse your own creativity with items you already own. And here's where you come in. You have the power to choose sustainability. Instead of opting for a brand new store-bought costume, think about choosing secondhand options or getting creative with a DIY costume. It's not just about saving money, it's about saving our planet for generations to come. Let me unveil my vision of this Halloween costume. Picture layers of captivating mermaid hem, ruffles at the bust, and a touch of mystery that will leave you guessing. The catch? I'm only using recycled goods. Plus, I've done my homework on adhesives and found something sustainable for this project. Staples are recyclable. You also have the choice of the craft tape, but I wanted a budget-friendly and sustainable option for this DIY project. I would also suggest using more heavy-duty staples in the future, but I wanted to remain intentional with my project, and I knew what I was doing with it at the end, and I did not need it to last. If you're like, yeah, Stephanie, we get it, what is the whole point of this? I'm really hoping to inspire you to embrace the DIY, the creative process, and just the impact that you can make. Now it's time to jump into the creative process. I had all of my recycling materials saved by myself, and also a huge shout out to my mom and sister who were also saving their dry recyclables for me as well. I used a little bit of all of them throughout this project, but we actually collected a little too much, and I probably could have made a much fuller skirt by the end of this, but again, I wanted to keep it simple and keep my intentions clear. But all the items were recycled by the end of this. Here I am stretching out this, and I think it's very funny and ironic that I decided to use this poly mailer, especially since it is from a Halloween store. Along with the poly mailer, I have this corset style Kool-Aid bodice that I want to attach. So here I am trying to figure out a way to really work through this because although I have sketches, I don't have a single idea what I'm doing. But I'm not going to let that stop me. Because the key here is to let your imagination run wild. There are no strict rules when you are creating something from your own imagination. If you see something and think, hey, that could work, then it's worth a shot, even if you have to try and try again. There are times where you're going to make mistakes. You're going to try things out and they might not work. Like the first time around when I put that polymailer on, I was like, I can fit this. And then the second time, yeah, not so much. It was a lot of wiggling. I thought if I could do a little shimmy, shimmy, shaky, shaky, I could get it off. But then I was like, nope, get this off me, get it off me, get off me. This is a bad idea. Oh, I need to breathe. But I still wanted to use this. So I actually incorporated it into the bust and added a bit of ruffles again there at the bodice to give a little bit of appeal behind the fun in the bag quote, which I thought was really cute because there's so much fun in this bag of recycling that I am bringing to life right now. Like I said before, I did do some pre-planning and some sketching, but I was open to my plans changing, and as a word of advice, it's important to stay flexible and allow your creativity to flourish. I believe it's important to remember that we all have our own creative journeys. Some people are further along and know exactly what goes into making a dress. And some people are like me, and I had no idea what I was doing. I know most of the time I was trying to make sure that the staples stapled outwards so that way I wouldn't catch on anything on the inside of the costume. I thought about little things like that, but I wasn't too concerned about the overall design, and I was just going with the flow. And that was perfectly okay. It was definitely a roller coaster of trial and error, but that's where the magic happened. Originally, I was thinking more of like ball gown dress, but as soon as I put on that poly mailer, I said, forget about it. I want a mermaid hem now. And it was perfectly fine. It works in magical ways, and it's all about trusting the process. Quite honestly, creativity is all about being wild, embracing the unpredictable nature, taking risks, trying new things, and sometimes just going with the flow of all the imperfections. You'll make it work some way, somehow. Okay, as a little side note, if you see me look up at the camera 1,000 times, it is because my tripod is dangling with tension above me, and I am absolutely terrified that it's going to come down on me. So that's what the little worried face is for most of the part, if you have noticed up to this point. Yeah, sorry. That's my concern. It never did fall down, by the way, but did not make me feel at ease at all. Because we're going with the flow of things, I wanted to sort of see how my vision was coming along. The best way for me to do this was to lie down and really see where else I had to add, how much further I had to go, where else I could see things, and I was also exhausted, but we got to get this done. And funny enough, as I am editing this, it is taking me quite a long time, but it's okay because I really did enjoy this. This entire project was more of I want to do this, I want to execute this idea. It's going to look amazing. I want to trust in myself. And at the end of the day, I got to say I did it. And I was actually pretty thrilled with the outcome. Maybe not at 11 o'clock at night the first time I saw them, but I'm sure you can be the judge of how excited I was by the end of it all. It definitely was an amazing experience, and I think that if you ever have an idea that you are so unsure about, you should just give it a try, because I regret nothing, but I 100% would have regretted not giving this an opportunity. Creativity often has its own agenda. Sometimes your vision will evolve, and that's okay. I think I've probably said that 1,000 times now, because that is the secret sauce to all of this. I know that what I wanted to create was going to look amazing as well. But as I was creating, I realized that I wanted to take this somewhere else. I wanted to really hone in on that runway-esque style of look at the bottom, look how it flows. And I was really happy with the results. So again, trusting in your gut and trusting that being creative means thinking outside of the box, as well as letting those creative juices take hold and launch your project into a whole nother creative realm. Finally, we are starting to see my vision come together. I've got the top bust area, the bodice, and then we've got the skirt, which I started to notice was a little long. So I stepped into it to really see how it would fit. I really do love this poly mailer. It was what really held this together. Without the poly mailer, I don't know what I would have done. So love that for me. Yeah, that hurt. I was thinking more of not getting it caught on myself, but forgot that I would still have to touch the outside of my costume. So I have no advice for anybody trying to make a costume with staples, because no matter what you do, your hands are going to be covered in tiny little cuts everywhere. And regardless if you staple it one way or the other, you're going to get hurt. So do not try this at home, kids. And you should always have adult supervision. But yeah, there was no adult supervision here. This was, I was the adult, and I was adulting, and I got my hands all chopped up. So yeah, don't do as I do. So here I am trying to really move around in this space. It is very difficult, and I really wanted to move and give it some more like oomph, you know? It was missing that little je ne sais quoi, but it needed the oomph at the bottom. It was very tricky in this space, so I decided to grab a chair to kind of act as a mannequin. I don't have a mannequin that I could actually drape this onto, and I didn't actually take any measurements, so it's not like I'd have a measurement mannequin that I could actually pin this to. Anyways, I know that there's other ways that I could have gone about creating a body form, but I was trying to keep it sustainable, and this was working for me. But I'm not built like a chair, and again, the chair was just taking up more space. But I did want you guys to see that sometimes you have ideas and sometimes they might not work out. And then you just have to kind of roll with them and continue to adjust and just be adaptable. Remember not to give up and just to keep going, because at the end of it, it is worth it. Because I remember in this very moment being like, why did I do this to myself? What did I get myself into? Why did I think this was a good idea? Personally, I did envision myself doing this outside, having a lot more space, but then I kept putting it off, and then realized that maybe I don't want to do it outside because there could be like bugs and stuff. So I decided on my hallway instead. I actually am really glad that I decided on this because of the POVs that I'm able to offer, even though I am still afraid that my camera was going to fall up until this point. Unless I'm sitting down on the ground, you can't really tell, but I have looked up so many times at the camera, and I was going to include them in the blooper reel, but decided against it. So I'm going to continue to add to the skirt in this way, but I promise you, it was not a long time before I realized that this was not going to work for me. I tried everything under the sun, guys, everything, just to get this to work, including finally giving in and getting out of the hallway and doing it in my kitchen. This was the part where I was just over it. You can tell on my face. I just want things to staple together. I almost considered trying to just get another stapler in the morning because nothing was working, and I still persevered. Now for the bow, I really wanted to replicate the red strings on a recycling bag, so I used the Coca-Cola wrappers, because if you know anything about me, you know I always have a Coke nearby. So I actually used tape, and this is the only part that is not recyclable, but I will be using it for a second costume, so I did make sure to have dual purposes for this item. There is another part where I do use tape, but we will get there when we get there. So I actually used static electricity for this, so I taped the tape upside down and then just use the regular static to kind of pull it up. That was my little tip and trick for this situation. Tied it into a little bow, just as you would like a recycling bag. Look at me all cute with my little red bow, which by the way was so nice and like comfy on my head. The next step for this was, yes, using an actual recycling bag. Again, I really wanted to emulate that this was fashion and it was trash, but I was making it my own and making it runway-esque. And I say runway-esque meaning, of course, I'm not going to strut on a runway, but that is where my vision and my inspiration really truly came from. I think my biggest takeaway from this entire video is do as I say and not as I do, because at first I'm using scissors, but then I'm ripping bags open. Sometimes I'm using the X-Acto knife incorrectly, and the stapler, forget about it. So yeah, please use your own judgment, and this is definitely not an how-to tutorial, but only serves as inspiration to show you that there is a lot of work behind the scenes, but sometimes that process is all a part of the fun as well. To remain completely honest with you, I was not thrilled with the way the blue bag looked. I was looking for a more fuller look, but at the same time, I wasn't trying to be more wasteful. So here is the first time I am finally piecing it all together in front of you, in front of myself, and having a true reaction at nearly 11 o'clock at night. So this is the tape that I do end up using because I am over it. I am fed up. I'm tired of stapling into these boxes that are obviously too thick for the staples that I have, the standard staples. So I've given in to the tape, which I did remove separately at the end of this because I did want to make sure that I could recycle everything that was recyclable, including the staples. The bust was bustin'. Yeah, I said that right. It doesn't even hold up. That staple right there, I looked back at this video and I was like, you let me down. That one little staple. But I digress. At the end of the day, this was all just fun and games, and it's not that serious. So swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. We are adding a little bit more to the bottom, really seeing how we can get this to flow. I'm totally over this at this point. This part's fallen. I'm almost like, how can I get this to work? Oh, just totally over it. I think you can tell by my face. Someone told me once I don't have a resting bee face, and I said, you have not seen me completely tired, exhausted at a grocery store before. Because I think that is probably the worst place to be. I hate cooking. And then a grocery store is just a whole bunch of options, and my brain says, no, I don't know. It's kind of funny because this is all like grocery items. And yeah, anywho, swish, swish. Here is the absolute final. We're putting on the cape. We're getting it all situated, putting it all together. I'm super excited to finally see it. I don't look too excited. I'm going to be very honest. I look absolutely frustrated. But again, I'm going to keep saying it because I remember in this moment how absolutely frustrated I was. I wanted to add so much more, but I was over it. I was like, honey, please just take a video of me. I want to put this on and I would like to go to bed. And here it is. Ta-da! Finally, we are here. I am not happy. You can see it all over my face. I'm like, I will try again in the morning. Maybe. I don't know. Or I'm just not going to record at all. I don't know. I had no backup plan at this point, so I went with it. As I was leaving the house at 9 a.m. on Friday morning, my neighbor happened to walk by. I've never seen this lady before, and she stops and she asks me if I need any help as I walked out in my robe in a box of recyclables. And I was like, no, I'm okay. And she carries on her way. And I'm like, oh goodness. She even offered to open the door for me. She thought I was putting it in my car. I don't know where exactly I was taking it, but anyway. So I get down to the bottom of the stairs and I'm like, well, if I have the ball in my head, then why is she asking me? And I realize I don't have the ball in my head. So I quickly try to see if I have it in this little box here, and I don't. Of course I don't. Leave it to me to forget something. And I was dead set on not forgetting anything. So I ran back inside and I grabbed the bow. I love my bow. I hope you understand how much this bow means to me. Running off to where I was going to go photograph this in public. I was terrified, and I keep doing this more and more, and I keep telling myself it's going to get easier, but it doesn't get any easier. I almost feel like I'm creating harder things to do. Like I'm not just taking photos out in public. I'm literally dressing up in trash. So yeah, I could see how I kind of set myself up to making this one a little bit more difficult on myself, but you know what? It is all about pushing those boundaries and stepping out of the comfort zone in this one. Or stepping outside of the box, dare I say. Okay, yeah, okay. I will leave the dad jokes for the dads and we will continue on. So I'm finally piecing together. See? Do you guys see how disappointed I am that this little piece will not stick there. And I've even given up trying to staple it. I even brought a stapler with me and didn't even bother using it at this point, because why? Why would I? All right. So here we go. I finally have it. Again, absolutely terrified. I'm on an ATV trail, so at any point anyone can come zipping down that trail on an ATV while I am dressed in trash. But without further ado, my costume. Of course, I had to hit it with the 10-second tidy, but this is a great opportunity to remind you guys to like and comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'd love to hear about your sustainable costumes. Well, I did it. I came outside, literally in trash, shredded my stuff. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mouth. Shredded my stuff. And I got caught by one person who was like, do you need help? And I was like, no. Are you putting that in the car? No. I did it! Okay. It's that time! Oh man, I hope I was recording. That would really suck. Gosh. I don't have time for any more mistakes. I didn't think about putting costumes in the costume pocket. Ooh.
I don't know what it's supposed to be.
It's like a recycling bag that's dumped upside down. See, the top of the bow is here, and all the garbage is coming out at the bottom.
You want to stop recording now, or?